Hi! So this is my book review of Dragons and Demons, the 5th book in Kel Kade's King's Dark Tidings series, not counting The Mage of No Renown. Now, I do not like talking to the camera, and because I do not believe in self-improvement, I'm not going to do it. Instead, you are going to get to watch me make lots and lots of dragons in lots and lots of different ways. I know you are very disappointed to not get to watch this beautiful face more, but I do believe this is best for all. So my book reviews have usually contained a spoiler-free part and a talk-free part. But this time, I've chosen to forgo the spoiler-free part, because you can just read the backside of the book. The spoiler-free part is really only recounting what happens in the first few chapters. And if you've made it to the 5th book of this series, you are already going to read this book. So I'm diving straight into the talking about all the things I like about this book. Ready, set, go! So the story starts off strong, with Reskin being unconscious from the poison he got hit with at the end of the last book. I like this a lot, because Farson stands guard, and when Kai can barely feel Reskin's pulse, Farson immediately rushes away to find a healer, throws her over his shoulder, and runs with her to Reskin. Now, we all know that Farson doesn't actually want Reskin dead, but it's still nice when it's shown. When Reskin wakes up, he unconsciously wraps up Tyrion in a blanket burrito and angrily asks him if he's going to marry Frisha. Because even coming back from death's doorsteps, Reskin's first thought is of his friends. There are now 2 brands. One is called Blue, the other is called Red. One of them is the real one, the other is Fae. No one, including themselves, knows who's the real one. So Reskin is going after Tam, and intends to only bring Raylan and Mage Thrall. Kai absolutely not about this plan, and Reskin okays anyone who can leave within an hour to come with him. Then he goes and meets with the Gendishan representatives, seemingly there to swear fealty to Reskin, but instead they try to kill him, and like the badass Reskin is, he kills the man and writes the contract in the dead man's blood. Oh, and he did it by stabbing the man in the throat with a pen. He is now in the process of picking a regent for Gendishan. Yet you play with them like they are toys. I cannot say I understand your meaning, since I was never engaged with toys or play. Farson looked as if he had been punched in the gut. I mean, of course he looks like that, because his biggest regret in life is depriving you of your childhood. I don't really like Asaria. She's not annoying like Raylan, or Sheila, or any of those, but she seems kind of flat as a character. I mean, she does get better in the next book, so there's that. I really don't like the idea of Reskin having a predestined girlfriend, soulmates and all that. I feel like that's Kel's solution to not having to write another romance plot for Reskin, or at least skip some steps. Because with a soulmate you can just go, instant attraction, wow, you're so in love. And you don't really have to put in any of the work it takes to actually write a compelling romance. We finally learn what Spiritua means. Spiritua means king, and that Reskin is a human Spiritua. Spiritua are the kings of the Aelvenon, basically Fae, but basically Tolkien's elves, I think. They can access the full spectrum of mage power. Human spirituas are rare and only happens when there is select breathing among mages. So basically only royalty and religious people. All human spirituas go mad once they reach adulthood. Reskin's bouts of paranoia is a result of that. The reason Reskin isn't entirely mad by now is because of the insane training he received by people who did know what he was and knew how to repress it. That absolutely nutcase of a sleeping schedule he has, where he sleeps like 3 hours every 2 nights. Yeah, that is keeping him so exhausting that the magic is busy keeping him alive, so it won't drive him crazy. The little stone he wears around his neck turned out to be a dragon egg, and have been like a wanted parasite, draining the excess magic off him. And I really love how such a basic things as food and rest is what will make him more powerful. It's just the most basic doctor advice for any illness. Just sleep more, eat better. And it's so funny to me. As it turns out, the Elvenon's power comes from their emotions. So Reskin, having been trained to repress those along with his magic, will come back to bite him and maybe inspire an emotional story arc of his. Many of us in the fandom thought Kadean was a demon possessed, but now it's been shown to us that he's actually Spiritua too, only without Reskin's training to repress the madness. And he is also a demon, so I guess we were all right about that. Honestly, Reskin needs some emotional maturing and magic training. Fast, if he's going to be able to beat his brother. We know by now that magic beats physical performance, so unless Reskin is going to poison Kadean, he needs to step up in the magics department. Also, Reskin doesn't like red, reminds him of blood. His favorite colors are green and blue. Not surprising, since that's his sword's colors. It's like him being a cat person. He's starting to become human, just having these very normal, meaningless realizations about himself. And I like Reskin reflecting on that he's actually had emotions in the past. We also find out that the Citadel is siphoning out Reskin's power and replenishing him. The calm he feels is due to being magically replenished. They have a debate on whether or not Reskin should stay weak and stay sane, or grow powerful and risk madness. Also, Bilior didn't want a human army, but one of the Aelvenon. And this is the first time Reskin feels like a fool. Asaria and Reskin goes to train. Asaria is better than Reskin. And I really wonder if Kel has the womb to continue have Asaria be better than Reskin in combat. I also like that how Reskin doesn't have an ego about Asaria being better than him. I mean, I guess having an ego at all would violate a shit ton of rules, so it's against his nature, but I like it anyway. It's presumed that Reskin is immortal, if he reaches that age, which isn't certain because Entress will kill him if he goes mad. I also have no problem whatsoever with Nanase and Entress being a couple. None. And I thought it was really funny when Nanase was excited about learning magic from the Aelvenon and said something like, "Oh, we could share power!" And that's basically propositioning someone for sex in Aelvenon speak. So everyone goes kinda, "Whoa, what did you say?" And Reskin's just like, Oh, I think you just propositioned Entris for sex. Really funny to me. I might be immature finding that funny. We have our answer. Spiritua attract mages. Loyalty and attraction. This explains Nanase, Raylin, and Adston's behavior. Does not explain Frisha and Sheila's behavior, but I have something. If you didn't know, there's been this theory that Reskin's spell have been the reason women are so attracted to Reskin. I've had this theory that it makes them more jealous and irritated too, but that has yet to be confirmed. Aseria and Reskin have had dreams about each other. Conclusion, soulmates. Aseria is engaged or something to Entris, but doesn't want to marry him. Entris thinks it's because of Reskin. Honestly, fair. Reskin have historically been the reason many girls don't want to marry other men. Aseria, however, wants Reskin dead, which reads to me like her not liking the connection between them and wanting it separated by any means possible. Once again, I think soulmates are a lazy way to set up a new love interest. I love Tam being able to speak Fae. He actually surpasses Reskin like that. And all the other slaves being afraid of him being the stone mage and no one can prove he is one. I really like that detail. It is decided that Entris and Aseria will come along to see if Kadean is a mad Spiritua and kill him if it is so. Entris's job is to kill human Spiritua when they go mad. It kind of reminds me of the purpose of the res. I wonder if the res was inspired by this dynamic. I never wanted you dead. I wanted you to not be what we made you. Since you left the fortress, you have become something else. You are not the monster we thought we created. Reskin had his first sex dream. It was magical, both literally and figuratively. I do like that Reskin gets to explore his sexuality a bit. He has been so deprived of normal human experiences that I really want this for him. Wesson is a demon according to Entris. A demon with a very special kind of possession, namely that he had a demon in his body when he was in the womb, before he was assigned a soul. So he's part demon in a way that the demon doesn't control him, but it's just a natural part of him. Entris wants to eradicate demons, including Wesson. Maybe Wesson can have the demon part dragged out of him somehow, and become the normal constructive mage he always wanted to be? I don't know, but I do feel like that would sort of defeat Wesson's whole character arc with accepting his dark parts and learning control and all that, if he then just had all his problems stripped away from him. While I do think the claiming of Wesson is disgusting, I do think it's inherently funny when Celise is trying to get Kai to be her champion if Wesson's girlfriend Dia from back home wants to try to take him from her. Because she still has not really come to terms or understood that Wesson is much, much more dangerous than Kai. And Kai is just finding the whole situation hilarious and promises, yes, if she tries to take him from you, I will stand as your champion. And Celise is so happy. Once again, I think it's disgusting, but also really funny. I also absolutely want a backstory on Kai and his wife. She is mentioned on and off, and I want to know more. Tam rescuing himself from the quarry is also a detail I liked. It shows his growth and that he doesn't need Reskin to save him. The furry plot is just plain weird, and I don't understand why Kel Kade keeps assigning love interests to Reskin when he doesn't want them. We have understood that he is desirable. We don't need a furry soulmate bond to confirm this. And I also find this whole, oh, he's my mate. I just find the word mate described to people really disgusting. I don't know exactly why. Maybe I'm damaged from all the Sarah J. Maas books I've unfortunately consumed throughout the years. Anyway, I am happy though that plot with the Parabata leaves, which was set up in the first book, basically within the first few chapters, is finally bearing fruit. I was not expecting anything more to come from that, but I'm really intrigued just how much Kel must have planned in advance for this book. And when they talk about Reskin giving up his power to become an animal, all I could think is the end of Reskin's story is him becoming a raven. Giving up all his spiritual power, not going mad, and being the raven from Wesson's visions about the future. I don't think that's overly likely to happen, but it is a solid theory. Because risking going mad eventually is a real problem, and becoming an animal is a way to escape that. So yeah, risking becoming a literal raven watching over all his empires, that would be pretty fun to me, even though I don't think it's the best ending of them all. Wesson will no longer die a virgin, and that, it's not completely official, because Wesson hasn't acknowledged the marriage with words, just consummated it or something. But it's still really funny how Reskin is basically his father-in-law now, because he is married to the Lareshi Queen, who is Wesson's girlfriend's wife's mother. And I like Kai making fun of it. I just really appreciate Kai in general, just being a menace, sarcastic, making jokes, and not giving a shit whether the people around him finds it funny or are uncomfortable with it. All hail Kai, the second best character in the series. The rebel leader turns out to be Raylan's father, meaning that Reskin, on his trip to the tournament, accidentally picked up the general's heir, the daughter of the rebel leader, the most powerful battle mage in the world, and a rebel striker. That is the kind of luck where it stops being luck and ventures into meddling gods territory. The battle happens, Wesson finally accepts himself as a battle mage and blew the battle master into little pieces. Kadean shows up with a Shaylin sword, and him and Reskin spars for a while, before Kadean switches to magic. Probably because he realized he will not beat his little brother in combat, and knows he has not practiced with magic and will be completely helpless. Reskin dies, keeping Kadean from killing his entire army. Farson holding Reskin, screaming, "Save my boy," made me cry. He finally admitted out loud what we heard him think during his first appearance in Reign of Madness, that he always thought of Reskin as his own child. They try to find Baringish to get him to resurrect Reskin, but he is gone. They argue a bit about where to bury Reskin before settling on the place of his last battle. And that is a good thing, because it would have been hella hard for Baringish to resurrect Reskin had his body been on its way back to Kyle guarded by strikers, Wesen, Elvenon, and a wolf that refuses to leave his side. It's also really interesting to hear Baringish talk about Reskin's tattoos now that they aren't hidden. He confirms that the masters killed him as many times as possible, but without specifying why. He is surprised when he, in Reskin's tattoos, discover that his masters consider him to be Gokka, basically the non-necromancer warrior part his masters was. Baringish resurrects Reskin, but because Reskin is so fucking used to getting dead and getting resurrected again, he wakes up way earlier than Baringish would have thought. So he doesn't get possessed by a demon and kills Baringish and his aide, meaning Reskin can no longer die and get returned, because all the necromancers we are aware of are dead. I'll admit, I thought it was really funny when Baringish compared Reskin's accomplishments in 1 year versus what Kadean had done in 2. Kadean may have killed Reskin, but even his own tutor knows which one of them is best. And now Reskin has a little baby dragon. As I'm sure you've understood by now, I am very happy about this. Reskin is officially Mother of Dragons now. Or Father of Dragons, we are not sure. Basically, he was responsible for the birth. Does that make him a mother, or is he a father by gender alone? Who can say? It simply isn't an adventure worth telling if there aren't any dragons. That quote is perfectly true, but not said by J.R.R. Tolkien. Reskin thinks to himself that it's time for him to make his own rules. We then get a monologue from Reskin about how his whole life has been staked out for him and carefully controlled. Even when he left the fortress, he was burdened by responsibilities he did not want, but not anymore. As Striker Adana was dying, he said, "Long live the king, may he forever dwell in this darkness he has unleashed." Book 1 is called Free the Darkness, but this is the first time Reskin has been truly free to do what he wants.